Washington State. The Little Minister by J. M. Barrie. Chapter 38. Thrums during the 24 hours. Defense of the manse. Hardly had I crossed the threshold of the mud house when such a sickness came over me that I could not have looked up, though Nanny's voice had suddenly changed to Margaret's. Vaguely I knew that Nanny had put the kettle on the fire, a woman's first thought when there is illness in the house, and as I sat with my hands over my face, I heard the water dripping from my clothes to the floor. "Why is that bell ringing?" I asked at last, ignoring all questions and speaking through my fingers. An artist, I suppose, could paint all expression out of a human face. The sickness was having that effect on my voice. "It's the Auld Licht bell," Sanders said, "and it's almost as fearsome to listen to as last nicht's rain. I wish I kent what they're ringing it for." "Wish no sic things," said Nanny nervously. "There's things it's best to put off kenning as lang as we can." "It's that ill cleekit witch, Effie McBean, that makes Nanny speak so doleful," Sanders told me. "There was to be a prayer meeting last night, but Mr. Dishart never came to it, though they rang till they raxed their arms. And now, if he says, it'll ring on by itself till he's brocht Tama a corp. The hellicat says the rain's a dispensation to drown him in for neglect of duty. Sal, I would think little of the Lord if he needed to create a new sea to drown one man in. Nanny, you cutty, there's no swearing. I defy you to find a single lonely oath in what I've said." "Never mind Effie McBean," I interposed. "What are the congregation saying about the minister's absence?" "We ken little except what Effie told us," Nanny answered. "I was at Tillydrum yestreen meeting Sanders as he got out of the gaol, and that awful ounding began when we was on the Belly's Prize. We focht our way through it, but not a soul did we meet, and wha would gang out the day that can buy that hammer? Ay, but Effie says it's kent in Thrums that Mr. Dishart has run off wi' an Egyptian." "You're waur than her, Nanny," Sanders said roughly, "for you hae twa reasons for kenning better. In the first place, has Mr. Dishart no keeped you in siller a' the time I was awa? And for another, have I no been at the manse?" My head rose now. "He gaed to the manse," Nanny explained, "to thank Mr. Dishart for being so good to me. Ay, but Jean wouldna let him in. I'm thinking that looks gey grey." "Whatever was her reason," Sanders admitted, "Jean wouldna open a door, but I keeked in at the parlour window and saw Mrs. Dishart in looking very cosy and laughing. And do you think I would hae seen that if ill had come ower the minister?" "Not if Margaret knew of it," I said to myself, and wondered at Whamond's forbearance. "She had a skein of worsted stretched out on her hands," Sanders continued, "and a young lady was winding it. I didna see her right, but she wasna a Thrums lady." "Effie McBean says she's his intended come to call him to account," Nanny said. But I hardly listened, for I saw that I must hurry to Tammas Whamond's. Nanny followed me to the gate with her gown pulled over her head, and said excitedly, "Oh, Dominie, I warrant it's true. It'll be Babbie. Sanders doesna suspect because I've told him nothing about her. Oh, what's to be done? They were baith so good to me." I could only tell her to keep what she knew to herself. "Has Rob Dow come back?" I called out after I had started. "Well, fry," she replied, and then I remembered that all these things had happened while Nanny was at Tillydrum. In this life some of the 7 ages are spread over 2 decades, and others pass as quickly as a stage play. Though a fifth of a season's rain had fallen in a night and a day, it had scarcely kept pace with Gavin. I hurried to the town by the Roods. That brae was deserted as the country roads, except where children had escaped from their mothers to wade in it. Here and there dams were keeping the water away from one door to send it with greater volume to another, and at points the ground had fallen in. But this I noticed without interest. I did not even realize that I was holding my head painfully to the side, where it had been blown by the wind and glued by the rain. I have never held my head straight since that journey. Only a few looms were going, their pedals in water. I was addressed from several doors and windows, once by Charles Yule. "Dinna pretend," he said, "that you've walked in for the schoolhouse alane. The rain chased me into this house yestreen, and here it has keeped me, though I bide no further awa than Tillyloss." "Charles," I said in a low voice. "Why is the Auld Licht bell ringing?" "Hae you no heard about Mr. Dishart?" he asked. "Oh, man, that's Lang Tammas in the kirk by himself, tearing at the bell to bring the folk together to depose the minister." Instead of going to Whamond's house in the school wynd, I hastened down the Banker's Close to the kirk, and had almost to turn back, so choked was the close with floating refuse. I could see the bell swaying, but the kirk was locked, and I battered on the door to no purpose. Then, remembering that Henry Munn lived in Coates Trance, I set off for his house. He saw me crossing the square, but would not open his door until I was close to it. "When I open," he cried, "squeeze through quick." But though I did his bidding, a rush of water darted in before me. Hendry reclosed the door by flinging himself against it. "When I saw you crossing the square," he said, "it was surprise enough to cure the hiccup." "Hendry," I replied instantly, "why is the Auld Licht bell ringing?" He put his finger to his lip. "I see," he said imperturbably. "You've met our folk in the glen and heard frae them about a minister." "What folk?" "Mair than half the congregation," he replied. "I started for Glen Quharity 2 hours syne to help the farmers. You didna see them?" "No, they must have been on the other side of the river." Again that question forced my lips. "Why is the bell ringing?" "Canny, dominie," he said, "till we're up the stair. Missy Moncur's lugs at her keyhole listening to you." "You lie, Hendry, man," cried an invisible woman. The voice became more plaintive. "I ken a heap, Hendry, so you may as well tell me a'." "Lick away at the bone, you hae," the shoemaker replied heartlessly, and conducted me to his room up one of the few inside stairs then in Thrums. Hendry's oddest furniture was 5 boxes, fixed to the weight at such a height that children could climb into them from a high stool. In these his bairns slept, and so space was economized. I could never laugh at the arrangement, as I knew that Betty had planned it on her deathbed for her man's sake. 5 little heads bobbed up in their beds as I entered, but more vexing to me was Wearyworld on a stool. "In by, dominie," he said sociably. "Sal, you needna fear burning wet that water on you. You're in mair danger o' coming a boil." "I want to speak to you alone, Hendry," I said bluntly. "You winna put me out, Hendry," the alarmed policeman entreated. "Mind, you said in sich weather you would be friendly to a brute beast. Ay, ay, dominie, what's your news? It's welcome, be it good or bad. You would meet the townsfolk in the glen, and they would tell you about Mr. Dishart. What you hinna heard?" "Oh, sirs, he's a lost man. There would hae been a meeting the day to depose him if so many hadna gane to the glen, but the morn'll do as weel. The very woman is cursing him, and the laddies has begun to gather stanes. He's married to an Egypt." "Henry," I cried, like one giving an order. "Wearyworld, step," said Hendry sternly, and then added soft-heartedly, "Here's a bit of news that'll open Missy Moncur's door to you. You can tell her frae me that the bell's ringing just because I forgot to tie it up last nicht, and the wind's shaking it, and I winna gang out in the rain to stop it." "Ay," the policeman said, looking at me sulkily, "she may open her door for that, but it'll no let me in. Tell me mair. Tell me what the lady at the manse is." "Out you go," answered Hendry. "Once she opens the door, you can shove your foot in, and syne she's in your power." He pushed Wearyworld out, and came back to me, saying, "It was best to tell him the truth, to keep him frae making up lies." "But is it the truth?" "I was told Lang Tammas." "Ay, I ken that story, but Tammas has other work on hand." "Then tie up the bell at once, Hendry," I urged. "I canna," he answered gravely. "Tammas took the keys of the kirk frae me yestreen, and when I gae them up, he says the bell is being rung by the hand of God." "Has he been at the manse? Does Mrs. Dishart know?" "He's been at the manse 2 or 3 times, but Jean barred him out. She'll let nobody in till the minister comes back, and so the mistress kens nothing. But what's the use of keeping it frae her any langer?" "Every use," I said. "None," answered Hendry sadly. "Dominie, the minister was married to the Egyptian on the hill last nicht, and Tammas was witness. Not only were they married, but they've run off all together." "You are wrong, Hendry," I assured him, telling him as much as I dared. "I left Mr. Dishart in my house." "What? But if that is so, how did he no come back with you?" "Because he was nearly drowned in the flood." "She be with him?" "He was alone." Hendry's face lit up dimly with joy. And then he shook his head. Tammas was witness, he said. Can you deny the marriage? All I ask of you, I answered guardedly, is to suspend judgment until the minister returns. There can be nothing done, at any rate, he said, till the folk themselves come back frae the glen, and I needna tell you how glad we would a be to be as fond of him as ever. But Tammas was witness. Have pity on his mother, man. We've done the best for her we could, he replied. We prigged with Tammas no to gang the manse till he was sure the minister was living. For if he has been drowned, we said, his mother need never ken what we're thinking of doing. Ay, and we're sorry for the young lady too. What young lady is this you all talk of? I asked. She's his intended. Ay, you needn't start. She has come on a road frae Glasgow to challenge him about a gypsy. The pitiful thing is that Mrs. Dishart lodged away her fears, and now they're baith waiting for his return, as happy as ignorance can make them. There is no such lady, I said. But there is, he answered doggedly, for she came in a machine late last night, and I was ane o' a dozen that baith heard and saw through my window. It stopped at the manse near half an hour. What's mair, the lady herself was at Sam'l Farquharson's in the tenements the day for 2 hours. I listened in bewilderment and fear. Sam'l's bairn's down with scarlet fever and like to die, and him being a widow man, he is gone useless. You maun blame the wives in the tenements for hauding back. They're fleid to smite their ain little uns, and as it happens, Sam'l's friends is off to the glen. Well, he ran greeting to the manse for Mr. Dishart, and the lady heard him crying to Jean to the door, and what does she do but gang straight to the tenements with Sam'l. Her goodness has naturally put the folk on her side against the minister. This does not prove her his intended, I broke in. She was heard saying to Sam'l, answered the kirk officer, that the minister being awa, it was her duty to take his place. Yes, and though she little kent it, he was already married. Hendry, I said, rising, I must see this lady at once. Is she still at Farquharson's house? She may be back again by this time. Tammas set off for Sam'l as soon as he heard she was there, but he just missed her. I left him there an hour syne. He was waiting for her, determined to tell her all. I set off for the tenements at once, declining Hendry's company. The wind had fallen, so that the bell no longer rang, but the rain was falling doggedly. The streets were still deserted. I pushed open the precentor's door in the school wynd, but there was no one in the house. Tibbie Birse saw me and shouted from her door, "Ha' you heard of Mr. Dishart? He'll never daur show his face in Thrums again." Without giving her a word, I hastened to the tenements. The lady's no here, Sam'l Farquharson told me, and Thomas is back in the manse again trying to force his way in. From Sam'l too I turned, with no more than a groan, but he cried after me, "Perdition on the man that has played that lady false." Had Margaret been at her window, she must have seen me, so recklessly did I hurry up the minister's road, with nothing in me but a passion to take Whamond by the throat. He was not in the garden. The kitchen door was open. Jean was standing at it with her apron to her eyes. "Thomas Whamond?" I demanded, and my face completed the question. "You're over late," she wailed. "You wi' her. Oh, Dominie, where's the minister?" "You base woman," I cried. "Why did you unbar the door?" "It was the mistress," she answered. "She heard him shaking it, and I had to tell her what it was. Dominie, it's all my white. He tried to get in last night and roared threats through the door, and after he had gone awa, she speered who I had been speaking to. I had to tell her, but I said he had come to let her ken that the minister was taking shelter frae the rain in a farmhouse. I said he was to bide there till the flood gaed down, and that's how she has been easy a day. I acted for the best, but I'm sair punished now, for when she heard Thomas at the door 2 or 3 minutes syne, she ordered me to let him in, so that she could thank him for bringing the news last night, despite the rain. They're in the parlour. Oh, Dominie, gang in and stop his mouth." This was hard. I dared not go to the parlour. Margaret might have died at sight of me. I turned my face from Jean. "Jean," said someone, opening the inner kitchen door, "why did you—" She stopped, and that was what turned me round. As she spoke, I thought it was the young lady. When I looked, I saw it was Babbie, though no longer in a gypsy's dress. Then I knew that the young lady and Babbie were one. Chapter 38.